Hey, Michael Beresford here from OpenCorp today, guys. Here to talk to you on today's Property WOD, which is all about how properties worked in the past and what do you do when you get to that magic 10-year time frame. So obviously the longer you hold property, the more compound growth you get, but 10 years is a common time frame that's talked about. So let's have a look at a snapshot. Actually going to share with you the actual performance of a property over that time frame. Okay, so the specific question that was written in was, where was this property bought? It was bought in Perth, land settled in late 2003, tenants in 2004. That property was bought for $267,000. So that's the asset value, block of land, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double lock-up garage house. The debt on that property, this is actually one of my own guys, personal example today, was $260,000. Seemed scary at the time, but some of the best money I've ever spent. And the rental, when it was first tenanted, was $230 per week. Okay, now, had that property valued earlier this year, and the bank valued it at $620,000. Okay, so a lot of money. That's obviously what we expect property to do over the long term. Okay. Now, because I've paid interest only, my loan's still only $260,000. So for those of you that aren't aware of what interest only means, what we're doing is just using as little money out of our own pocket as possible to hold this property, because we're not using extra cash flow to pay the debt down and reduce this over time. We're just paying the interest component, and where the wealth creation happens is in the difference between the debt and the property value, and that's what we call equity. Okay. Now that rent, the rent on this property today is $535 per week. Okay, so there's a snapshot over about a 10-year period on how a property's performed in Perth. Now, what's interesting is that Perth hasn't always been a booming market over those 10 years. It's really easy for people to get caught up and think that they've got to make money quickly. You know, wealth creation through property, it takes time. Okay, and obviously the longer that you hold the property, the more beneficial it will be. So let's have a look what it might look like over the next 10 years from this point. Okay, that didn't work. Different color. So, firstly, let me ask a question. If you were like any of my mates and I said to them, guys, you could have bought something for well under $300,000 and today it's worth over $600,000, what do you think is the most common answer they give me about what they'd do with that property? They'd sell it. And that's unfortunately the common mistake that a lot of Australians make, okay? Because they think they can quickly cash it in and they've made 300 grand. How great's that? Let's look at something. Over time, we expect that the $620,000 will continue to grow in value over time. The key question is, what does that actually cost me out of pocket? Okay, so let's do a really quick assessment here. Grab my calculator. Let's look at what it costs me to hold this property, i.e. cover the interest on this loan, on average interest rates at 7%. Okay, so 260,000 times 7% divided by 12, we're looking at $1,520 per month on that property. Green doesn't work. $1,520 per month to be able to hold that property. Okay, now let's look at what $535 a week brings me in cash flow, because remember, not only does property value go up over time, but rent increases as well. So $535 per week divided by 12, so on a monthly basis we're looking at around $23.20 per month in rental income. Okay, now because this property is only 10-11 years old, I'm still getting a lot of tax benefit on that. We won't factor that in. Let's just assume that the tax benefit covers the rates, insurance and so on. Now, just on the rent alone, on average interest rates I need to come up with $1,520 per month, but I've got $23.20 per month in rental income. So this property is actually making me about $800 a month in positive cash flow after costs. Okay, so getting back to the key point of how property works over time, 620 will continue to increase. How much does it actually cost me to get that growth? The answer is it's cost me nothing. Okay, so if I go back to the early days when I first had this property, the holding cost from memory was about $50 to $60 per week. After rent, after tax, that's what it was costing me to hold this property. Okay, being a true growth asset, it's obviously grown very well over the last 11 years or so. It will continue to go up, but because the rent has also increased, it costs me nothing to get that growth. Now, does that look like a pretty good outcome? Absolutely. Just imagine if you did this 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times, maybe 6 times over the course of your wealth creation journey. Okay, guys? So the key thing is, a lot of stuff is written out there that says that you need a lot of property to be able to generate significant income to substitute your retirement income. It's not true. What you do need is just a few well-chosen properties using the MAP process, just like this one, that will continue to grow at a good rate, cost you very little to hold day one, and become cash flow positive very, very quickly.